Keep in mind when you're doing a job like this, after you're done the repair, you want to go to a local garage to have the vehicle aligned to prevent premature tire wear. I'm going to remove this center cap. If you have to, you can use a straight blade screwdriver. Just put a rag on the wheel so you don't scratch the wheel. Pull that cover off. Use a 21mm socket. Remove the lug nuts. Remove the wheel. I have to loosen these bolts up and take those out, but to prevent the axle from spinning, what I'm actually going to do is take a screwdriver, stick it in between the fins of the rotor, and that's going to ride up right against the caliper, and that's going to stop it from spinning. You could also take a pry bar, go in between the lugs, but in that event, you would actually have to hold it. So this way, I'm not going to have to hold that there, and I can loosen these right up. I'm going to use a 12mm socket. And now I'll just turn the axle, get to the next set of bolts. Do the same. Do the same thing for the last ones. And now that's separated, we want to take this brake hose, give it a little more slack. So we're going to take this little bracket off here. Just use a pry bar or a screwdriver. Twist that sideways a little bit. And then you can take a hammer, just give it a little tap, take that out, and grab the hose. And just twist it back and forth a little. There's a little bit of rust on this one. Just take a little punch or a pry bar, just give it a tap. Break that up a little bit. And just slide that out of the way. I want to remove this bolt. This is the ABS wire or the wheel speed sensor wire. I'm going to use a 10mm socket. Take that bolt out, and this bracket can move. And there's a rubber grommet right here on a bracket. Just slide it off that bracket, trying not to break the wire. Just like that. That'll give you some slack. If to pop this cap off, just use a pry bar and a hammer. Just line that up there, give it a tap. Sometimes it helps to have a thinner pry bar or even a punch. Take that off like that. There is an O-ring right here. If it looks damaged or it looks like it's crushed at all, you should replace that. I'm just going to take a little rust penetrant and spray this down. There's a snap ring right here. I'm just going to use some snap ring pliers and take the snap ring off, just like that. I'm going to lower the vehicle, and then I'm going to support the lower control arm with a floor jack, just so this doesn't come flying down when I disconnect the bolts for the shock or the strut. I'm going to take these two strut bolts out. I'm going to use a 17mm wrench on the back side, and then for the nut, I'll use a 22mm socket. Take those out. I'm just going to take a punch and a hammer and just punch these bolts out. And same with the bottom one. Pull that out. You can just slide this out. Just like that. Oh, be careful of the tension on the brake line. Don't let that go too far. Should be able to slide the axle over there. With this like this, I just want to slide this in. I don't want that brake line to get too much tension on it. So I'll slide this over here. Can actually lower the control arm a little bit. the jack. And slide the axle. Slide it right out. Just like that. While I'm still holding the knuckle, I'll just take the axle. You could put some anti-seize on the end of it if you want to. Slide that back in, just like that. Get that in there. And then I can line up the strut. Back up with the knuckle. Just raise it up a little bit. And take the bolts, get the bolts back in. And get the top bolt in. You can take a hammer, give it a tap, install the nuts. Tighten these up, then you can use a torque wrench and tighten them to 111 foot-pounds. Now I can lower the floor jack. This ABS wire is going to slide back into this bracket right here. Lock that in place. And take this bracket, line this up. Take this bolt, get that started, and snug it up. And take the brake hose, slide it back in position. Take this clip, line that up, and just take a little hammer and give it a tap. That's good. Take the snap ring, reinstall it, slide it in position. Make sure it locks in where it was. Just going to take a little grease, keep some of the moisture out in case that seal doesn't seal too good. And it's a good idea to replace that O-ring. Take the cover, reinstall the cover. I'm just going to take a piece of wood, give it a tap with a hammer just to not damage the cover. If you have a socket that will go around the full size of the cover, use that. That's good. I'm going to put these bolts back in, line the axle up. I put a little bit of thread locker on these bolts. It's a good idea to put thread locker on them. They had thread locker before. We'll just twist the axle so you can get the other ones. Get them all started. All right, now I'm going to tighten these up. I'm going to try to do it evenly. Just snug these up a little bit on this side. Not too tight. And then spin the axle over here. And then just go around and snug them all up. And just like when I took them off, I'm going to put a screwdriver right here against the caliper, and then I'm going to torque these to 33 foot-pounds. Put the wheel back on. Put the lug nuts on. I'm going to use a torque wrench and torque the lug nuts down to 100 foot-pounds in a star pattern. I want to do it in a star pattern to torque the wheel down evenly. Just go around again, double check. That's good. And I can put the center cap back on.